how can you say you have joy when you're sitting at the foot of your daughter's hospital bed crying because she can't get up by herself? She couldn't walk. She's having a negative reaction to a medicine, and you don't know what is going to happen next. If it weren't for Jesus, if it weren't for the strength that he gave me in those moments, I don't know how people would have joy. My name is Mandy, and I am the Women's Ministry Director here.
So, what happened?
Yeah, so just a few weeks, 2 weeks after my daughter's 5th birthday, she was diagnosed with leukemia. So there was about 36 hours between when I knew something was wrong with her and we heard the words, she has cancer. And I immediately knew I was going to have to lay this all down to the Lord. I immediately had a peace that surpasses understanding. I've been a Christian following Christ for about 25 years at this point, so I knew what to say. I knew the right things to do, but I had never experienced the Lord in this way, what he did in my mind and through my heart once we heard that information.
Upon hearing that news, what did it look like kind of immediately after that?
Yeah, well, it's weird. You're going from like the excitement of starting kindergarten, just started kindergarten, and I had just started this new job, and so there's a lot of excitement in our house, and all of a sudden you get this news that just like uproots everything. Everything's changed. Now we're day and night, 24 days straight in the hospital. She's receiving treatment. Within the first 24 hours, she's being sedated and a PICC line's put in and she starts chemo right away. There's really no time to like think about it. You just move right into action mode. And as a mom, you're just like, what do I need to do? You just start going. And so it felt like our life drastically changed in just a few hours. And we just moved into whatever we needed to do to help her fight this and tackle it together.
At what point did you see kind of the Lord was working in this?
I mean, he's been in every single detail, and one thing I've learned is like, if you look, you'll find him. So in everything that we experience, every person, every interaction, I saw him. But I would even say those 36 hours leading up to that, like I felt the Lord's presence. I feel like he was preparing me. He was preparing my heart because the word cancer was running through my mind as I'm praying and crying out to the Lord before the doctor said it. I knew it. And so I almost feel like he was preparing me ahead of time so that when I heard those words, I wasn't as shocked as I could have been. And so it pretty immediately, I felt a peace of like, he was with us. He was right there in the room with us, and he had been preparing me, and I knew that he was going to carry us through that.
How has Emmy, what is kind of her perspective through this?
Yeah, I mean, it's been really hard. I mean, you can know Christ. You can know he's there for you, but to like experience it, it's just so different because there's been really tough conversations. There's been really hard days. There's gut-wrenching like things that you have to do and conversations you have to have and sleepless nights. She's been so joyful through it, truly, but she's experienced a lot of pain and a lot of like you have to prepare my daughter and leave her in this room, walk out of this room while they sedate her over and over again. I had to hold her while she's fearful of going into this procedure or scared of what is going to happen when she takes this next medicine. Because there's harsh realities of seeing what chemo and cancer does to your body, the sickness that comes with that, the hair loss. There's just, I mean, it's a lot. It's exhausting. And it's exhausting for her. And so, me having to kind of be the strength, felt like I had to be her strength. And that's where the Lord really broke me down, is realizing like I'm nothing without him. I cannot be the strength. He is my strength. I can't control it. As a parent, you just want to like rescue your child, when they're going through pain. You just want to rescue them. You want to take it away. You want to control the outcome. And I can't. I couldn't do that. And so what's been really cool is teaching her to rely on Christ through this, but also seeing the way he stripped me of my control and kind of showing me my limitations and my weaknesses and how he is my strength and he's in control.
How is she walking through this, and how are you able to kind of explain things to her? Like, I'm kind of curious about some of those conversations about what is she learning from the Lord in this?
Yeah, I think that something that's really interesting, and I'm going to hit on that in a second, but I have experienced joy and suffering simultaneously. Like realizing that those things can exist together. And I think that's translated to her too. Like she's seeing that she can be really sad and she can experience the pain and the sickness and the hard realities of missing her friends. Took her out of school for a year and she's just, we were in the hospital for days at a time, just like multiple days a week. And so that was really hard for her, but she was able, and she has been able to experience joy in the midst of suffering. And having conversations with her about, hey, where does your strength come from? Like people tell you, you're so strong, you're so brave. I'm like, you're not strong. Like it's not you, it's not her, it's the Lord. And I can only say that because I am experiencing that myself. As her mom, I'm like, I'm tired. I'm exhausted. I have nothing left to give her. There's so much information that I'm learning. There's so much information that I have to execute that I'm worn out. And the Lord has been my strength. And he has just kept me going, sustained me. And so as I learn those things, I just try to pass them down to her. And I try to show her, hey, this is really hard. And this feels like how can you do this when you feel like you have nothing left? But he always has provided. He always gives her the strength and me the strength to keep going.
How did you see God's power or faithfulness come through in this?
Yeah, I've experienced his strength so intentionally, really the power of his spirit. Really, that is what has changed me the most, is realizing, like Paul writes to the Ephesians about the power, praying for the power of your inner being through his spirit, and just how real that has become for me. I'm a person that I love to be in control. I've always I've got it, I can do this, I'm in control. And to say, like I said, to say that God is good and he has it is one thing, but to have to be so raw in your weakness is totally another thing. Like you're really have to lean into that. Do I really believe he's in control? Because I can't do anything about this. And just to be able to be at my absolute lowest, to feel like, I'm not sleeping through the night. But I have no choice, right? As a parent, as a mom, you have nothing. I can't just leave her. I don't want to. I want to be able to help her. And I'm exhausted and I have information fatigue and all these things. And there were some days where it's I don't know how I can keep going. I physically don't know how I can keep going. And the Lord just provided that strength. He provided the power through his spirit for me to keep going. And he provided people. He showed me what the body of Christ looks like. To provide people to ask questions when they needed to be asked, to provide material things like meals, blankets, and to just show up for me. So I think really seeing he provides through his people and through his spirit, and that it gives me everything I need. And I think something we don't like to talk about a lot is our limitations, our human limitations, but it's a good thing. And he really stripped me down of like what I'm capable of to show me how limited I am and how he fills in the gap for me and my human limitations with his Spirit.
How has going through this changed your perspective or strengthened your faith?
I mean, I feel like strength is just the thing I keep coming back to, because I never again want to rely on my own strength, on my own abilities. I don't want pride to be something that hinders me from knowing Christ and loving his people, because I can do nothing apart from Christ. And this really showed me that, how real that is. I can know all the information and I can do all the things, but my body's going to wear on me. You know, when we don't sleep enough, we're going to become exhausted and not be able to think clearly. And it's just amazing what he's done to show me, like, when you feel weak, it's good. It's okay, because that's when he steps in to show me just how good he is. And really, he gets the glory. Like, I don't want to get the glory for the things I do. I want him to get the glory. But if I'm relying on my own self and my own abilities and strength, how is he going to get the glory? And so I'd say that really he's shifted my perspective to take everything just through that lens and be able to constantly rely on him, to teach my kids to rely on him. Like, one day their bodies are going to fail them, their minds are going to fail, they're going to feel like they can't do it anymore. And if they already know that it's Christ is the one doing it to begin with, then I think they're off to a much better starting point. And just that, joy, he is the answer to joy in the midst of my suffering. I can experience both of those things. One thing I was going to say earlier is that, it's like, how can you say you have joy when you're sitting at the foot of your daughter's hospital bed crying because she can't get up by herself? She couldn't walk. She's having a negative reaction to a medicine, and you don't know what is going to happen next. There's so many instances where physically, like, I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know what to do. And so how can you say you have joy in that? If it weren't for Jesus, if it weren't for the strength that he gave me in those moments, I don't know how people would have joy. But I can truly say that joy is possible, and it is what I have experienced and I continue to experience in the midst of suffering.
What about your son? How old is he?
He's 8.
Okay, how is he handling this?
He's a protector.
Can you tell me?
Yes. Yeah. So my son is 8, and he's the older brother, and he's such a protector. He's always wanted to look out for his sister. He is one who loves justice. He wants everything to be okay. He doesn't want there to be tension. He doesn't want anybody to be sad. And so that's been really hard for him for them to be apart. They were apart for almost a month while she was in the hospital receiving treatment. For the first time since he could remember, he was going to school by himself without her. And it was really hard for him, but so sweet even to see, like, the Lord soften his heart and who he is as a person, how he is as a brother and a friend, because he's learned how to have empathy for people, and he's learned to be a little bit less selfish. As an 8-year-old boy, it's hard to not be naturally, for all of us, selfish, but he's learned, how to be a little bit more selfless and how to share me. He'd always had me when he needed me, and suddenly I've had to give a lot of attention to her. So that's still a work in progress. I think this is forever changed. I hope it's forever changed our family for the better, because I think there's always something for each of us to learn how to be better for one another and better for the Lord through this.
How about Ryan? How is he doing?
Yeah. So my husband is a wonderful provider and comforter, protector, loves his baby girl, more than anything. And that's been hard for him to see her in pain. It's been hard for him to see her suffer. But the unity that it's brought us and our family, I think he would say it's the worst, best thing that ever happened to us, because we don't want our daughter to have to walk through this. This isn't the path we would choose for her. But the way that it really shifts perspective, like this is so important. Our family is so important. And really how we live our lives is so much more important than a paycheck and all the things that you have to do and pour your energy into. It's been really life-changing for him of how he's able to show up for our family so much better and so much more present for us, realizing what's really important.
As a family as a whole, like, do you feel like there's like a takeaway from this?
Yeah. I will say there's just so much, and it's like whenever you look, you find him, and I've realized that there's many obstacles we face in life. So even in a cancer world, hospitalizations can pop up. A fever can pop up while you're having a fun day as a family or out in an event, and that means ER trip right away. It's a total interruption. And what you learn is you can either look at that and think, man, this really stinks. This is so miserable. Or you can go, all right, Lord, like, what are you going to teach me here? What do you have for me to learn? And so I think that for our whole family, like, number one, we've learned how to just really live our lives for Christ. We're not going to get it perfectly every time. We're still being sanctified in that. But even my son was saved and baptized in the midst of this year. And so that's, such a blessing, such a huge thing. And so we are so much more intentional together in our prayer life, how we worship together, the conversations that we have. There's been a lot of anxieties. There's a lot of fears and worries. Like, our son would be worried, like, what if she has to go? If I'd have to suddenly take her to the emergency room, like, what does that mean? Why does she have to go? And so there's a lot of fears that can come from that. But learning where you go when you have those fears, like memorizing scripture together and just learning how to pray, has just, I think, changed the way that we handle all the obstacles we face. Anything that comes our way, we know immediately where to go. We know immediately who to call on and how to do it. And we do it together, so it's just, I think, definitely unified us. And my husband would probably say just seeing people. You see people so differently when you've experienced such hurt and pain and just like chaos in your life. You start looking at other people and going, man, I wonder what they're walking through. I wonder what they're experiencing. And you have much more of a compassion for wanting to love people well because you have a grace for them. Like, everybody has a story and you don't want them to feel unseen.
How is she doing now?
She's doing really great right now. She is back in school full time. She is dancing again, and she's able to come back to church and be around other kids, and she's thriving. What's been really cool is to see her confidence. When she was only 5 when she was diagnosed. She's only 6 now, but the difference in her it's incredible. Her confidence to talk to people, to be, she knows what she wants and she goes after it, and she's kind and she loves to be with people. And so before, she was the little girl that was attached to my leg, and it was like, took a while to get her to warm up and kind of get her to move on. And now she's just running freely and crying when I pick her up because she doesn't want to leave. She just wants to be with people. And so health-wise, she's doing really well. She still has another year of treatment, a little over a year of treatment. But to see the growth even that the Lord's done in her is just, it's been amazing. Hi, my name is Mandy, and I am captivated and changed by Jesus.